Okay, so you're ready to talk about the future of building. Sustainable construction, right? Where it's pretty huge right now, reshaping our cities, and we're diving deep into all of it today.
And we're going way beyond just using recycled materials for this one.
Way beyond. This is about cutting-edge stuff, the
Right.
kind of innovation that makes you rethink what's possible. We're actually pulling a lot of this from Masood Khan's Sustainability Rewired podcast, by the way.
Always a good one, that Masood.
The best. And get this, we're talking about buildings that practically grow themselves. Self-healing concrete. Things are changing fast.
It's true. What's really cool is how this field has shifted. We're not just swapping out materials anymore, like using a bit of bamboo here and there. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I remember when bamboo was like the big innovation. Now we're talking about engineering entirely new materials, bio-based stuff. Like, what if we could grow a building from the ground up?
Right, and this is where things get really interesting, because it's not just about being green for the sake of it. These innovations have huge implications. Take low-carbon concrete, for example.
Okay, low-carbon concrete. I've heard whispers. Fill me in. What is that all about?
So, traditional concrete, huge contributor to global emissions, but now they're creating concrete that actually absorbs CO2 as it cures.
Wait, so the concrete is actually healing the planet as it's being made?
Exactly. It's a game changer, especially when you consider how much concrete we use in construction.
Totally.
Hmm.
I mean, every building, sidewalk, bridge, it's concrete, concrete, concrete. That's incredible, though. It's like we're not just building structures anymore. We're finding ways to make them part of the solution to climate change. But okay, it's not all about the materials themselves, right? What about how we build with them?
You're thinking about efficiency, which is key. That leads us to modular and prefabricated construction. It's a bit like those giant Lego sets, but for buildings.
Ah, okay. I've seen those time-lapse videos where a whole building seems to pop up in days. Is that what we're talking about?
That's it, but done sustainably. So instead of a chaotic construction site with materials going everywhere, components are built off-site in a controlled environment. Then they're transported and assembled on location.
Ah, so everything's pre-cut, pre-measured. It makes total sense. Less waste, faster construction. Are there any other benefits I'm missing?
Well, because these components are manufactured with such precision, there's less material wasted overall.
Yeah.
And often it can even lead to cost savings because you're streamlining the whole process.
So it's faster, more sustainable, A&D, potentially even cheaper. Okay, I'm sold. What else is there? Self-healing concrete, giant Lego sets. What else are we pulling out of the sustainable construction hat?
This one's really cool, 3D printing.
I was wondering when we'd get to that. Okay, so we're not talking about just making little models anymore, are we?
Nope, we're talking about entire houses being 3D printed. It's amazing, really.
How does that even work? Do
Yeah.
they just feed concrete into a giant printer or something?
Size.
Essentially, yes. But it's a highly specialized printer that deposits layers of concrete, precisely following a digital blueprint, building the structure layer by layer. But the really cool part, this isn't just some futuristic fantasy. This is being used right now, especially for creating affordable housing.
Wow. So not only is it pushing the boundaries of what's possible architecturally, but it also has the potential to address some of our most pressing social challenges. Amazing. But with all this talk about new materials and fancy techniques, it makes you wonder, what happens to these buildings when they're no longer in use? What happens when that self-healing concrete has served its purpose? Are we just creating new problems for the future?
That's where the idea of a circular economy comes into play.
Okay, I've heard that term, but remind me, what does that actually mean in the context of construction? So imagine this. We design buildings from the very beginning with disassembly and material reuse in mind. So instead of demolishing a building at the end of its lifespan, we carefully take it apart, almost like unbuilding it, and those materials get a second life in new construction projects.
So it's not just about building sustainably, but about designing for a building's entire life cycle.
Yeah.
From the moment the first brick is, well, not a brick, is 3D printed, to the moment it's taken apart and its pieces are used again.
Exactly. It's a much more holistic and sustainable way of approaching construction. But what if we could take it even a step further? What if we could make buildings that could actually think?
Buildings that think. Okay, now you're just messing with me. What does that even mean?
I know, it sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, right? But smart buildings are becoming more and more of a reality. Imagine buildings that are embedded with sensors, AI, even smart materials, all working together to make that building as efficient and responsive as possible. We're talking about buildings that can optimize their own energy use, that can predict when they need maintenance, even buildings that respond to changes in weather.
So a building that could theoretically, like, adjust its own temperature or lighting based on whether or not people are inside, or close the windows when it senses rain coming.
Exactly. It's about working with nature, not against it, by integrating technology to create a built environment that is more resilient, more efficient, and more in tune with the natural world.
It's amazing to think how far we've come. We've gone from simply swapping out traditional materials for greener options to buildings that practically think for themselves.
And that actually leads to a really interesting thought. What if the most sustainable building isn't a brand new one filled with all the latest technology, but an existing one that's been thoughtfully adapted and upgraded using these very technologies?
Hmm?
It's something to think about.
It really is.